there, it is time for lesson 7 in unit 3, and today we're going to talk about how to divide by a unit fraction. Remember, unit fractions have a numerator of 1. So we're going to be dividing by unit fractions today and hopefully discover some patterns. And tell your parents, don't worry, we'll get to the standard algorithm, but I want you to understand what you're doing because that is one of our 5th grade standards, to make sure you understand the visual model and what's going on here. All right. So hopefully you have your packet set opened up to lesson 7. This is your notes packet, the second one that you got. And dividing by unit fractions. You need a pencil also. Remember that whatever I write, you need to write. Guided examples. That means I'm going to be your guide today. We're going to do these together. It says, letter A, how many 1/8 are there in 1? Write a division equation to show this. So if I want to know how many 1/8 there are in 1, that means I need to start with one whole, right? So draw a nice rectangle. And if I want to know how many 1/8 there are in 1, I would take this 1 and divide it up into eighths, right? So that means 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know I just cut this up into 8 pieces. So when it asks you to write a division equation, I want you to think about this. What did I start with? I wanted to know how many eighths there were in 1, so I took 1 whole and divided it up into eighths. So we did 1 divided by 1/8. That would be our division equation. So 1 divided by 1/8, not 1/8 divided by 1. We didn't take 1/8 and divide it by 1. We took the 1 whole and divided it up into eighths. So it asks how many then. So how many eighths are there in 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1 divided by 1/8 would be equal to 8. All right, we're going to see some patterns in a little bit. For now, I want to solve these, and then we'll go back to look at the patterns. For letter B, it says, how many 1/8 are in 3? Write a division equation to show this. So if I want to know how many eighths there are in 3, that would mean I would have 3 whole shapes. 1, 2, 3. And then I would take each of those and divide them up into 8 pieces each, right? So the division equation we're doing here is taking 3 and dividing it by 1/8. We're not taking 1/8 divided by 3. We're starting with the 3 whole and dividing that into eighths. So 3 divided by 1/8 equals what? Well, we can cut each of these up into 8 pieces and see how many, right? But tell me this, I mean, we just did this up here. Didn't we already see that 1, if I'm dividing 1 into eighths, doesn't each one have 8? So this one will be cut up into 8. This one will be cut up into 8. This one will be cut up into 8, right? So I would have 8, 16, 24. So 3 divided by 1/8 would be equal to 24. It's true, right? We see that here. Each one whole is cut up into 8 pieces. I ask what multiplication equation you could use to solve this. Well, do you see how we just did 8, 16, 24? Didn't we do 8 plus 8 plus 8? Repeated addition is the same thing as multiplication, right? Didn't I just have this 8 3 times? So I could do 3 times 8. That would be the multiplication equation because 3 times 8 is 24. So 3 divided by 1/8, the inverse of that would be 3 times 8, which is 24. And I have to peek up here for a second. Would that work for this one? I have 1 divided by 1/8 is 8. Here I did 3 times 8 is 24. If I did 1 times 8, would I get 8? I think I would. Hopefully we're on to something. Okay, letter C says, how many fourths are there in 5? Write a division and multiplication equation to show this. So if I want to know how many fourths there are in 5, I mean, I could draw out my 5 squares, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I want to know how many fourths there are. So I'm taking that 5 and I'm dividing it by a fourth. So there'd be 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, 4 here. Yes, I do want you to draw that. I'm sorry. We don't have to draw pictures forever, but I really think they help. So 5 divided by 1/4, and we see that we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So 5 divided by 1/4 is 20. There's our division equation. I want the multiplication equation. And if you look at this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 5 times, right? So instead of saying 5 divided by 1/4, to get that 20, I could just say 5 times 4 because I have 4 pieces 5 times. And I get my same answer of 20. So letter D is where it asks you to kind of make a little generalization here. It wants you to take the patterns that you see up here and put them into an equation using variables. Dun, dun, dun. They're just numbers in disguise. So complete the equation. W and D are whole numbers, and D is not 0. This can't be 0 because thou shalt not divide by 0. It's the 11th commandment, in case you were wondering. You can't divide by 0. It's impossible. So this is saying any number divided by 1 over a different number, or I guess it could be the same, equals what times what. So when you look up here, we already said that 1 divided by 1/8, I could switch to 1 times the 8 to get 8, right? So look at this as W and look at this as D. Okay, it says W divided by 1 over D equals what times what? So here, W divided by 1/8 is the same as W times D. In this one here, when we did 3 divided by 1/8, if I looked at this as W divided by 1 over D equals what? Didn't we take W times D? D could represent the denominator too. That makes sense, doesn't it? And then for 5 divided by 1/4, if I look at this as W divided by 1 over D to get our answer, then wouldn't W times D give you your answer? So for this equation, this W represents what you start with. W divided by 1 over D would be the same as that W times whatever D is. 5 times 4 is 20. 3 times 8 is 24. 1 times 8 is 8. This will work every single time you divide by a unit fraction. Pretty cool, huh? So for letter E, when it says Olivia made 9 sandwiches and cut each into fourths, how many fourths does she have? Well, we know that if we're cutting this up and dividing it up, it's division, right? So she starts with her 9 sandwiches, and then she divides each sandwich up into fourths. Wants to know how many fourths she has. To do 9 divided by 1/4, I can look at this W divided by 1 over D, and we know that I can get the same result by taking W times D, or in this case, 9 times 4. So the answer to 9 divided by 1/4 is 36. She'd have 36 fourths. Okay, let's keep going. Turn the page. Letter F says, 10 members of a hiking club walk 9 miles. Each person will carry the backpack of food for an equal distance. How far will each group member carry the backpack? So if each person's gonna share this and carry it an equal distance, we're dividing this up into equal parts. This is division. And it says that the 10 members are hiking 9 miles, right? So we're gonna take our 10 members and they're gonna walk 9 miles with that. So I want you to think for a minute about what we would do, because I know it's tempting to go 10 divided by 9, but the 9 miles is our total that they're walking, right? And we're dividing the 9 miles up between 10 people. So this is actually saying that you'd want to do 9 divided by 10. 9 divided by 10. Now this is similar to what we did the other day. You remember when we had to share all of our waffles? So if I have 9 divided by 10, remember that that's the same as 9 times 1/10. And if you have 9 times 1/10, that means 1/10 9 times, that would be 9/10. So each person has to carry the backpack 9/10 of a mile. I would choose to carry it at the end after everyone's eaten all of the food. Then it will be lighter, you know? There's a way around it. Okay, letter G. Damon has a 6-pound bag of cat food. He feeds his cat 1/8 of a pound every day. How many days will the bag last? Okay, so 6-pound bag of cat food, right? And he is feeding his cat 1/8 every single day. So that means that he's taking the 6-pound bag and dividing it up into 1/8 of a pound for each day. He wants to know how many days. So I would have to do 6 divided by 1/8. So how many days would that be? Well, this looks like, to me, dividing by a unit fraction, right? And we saw when you divide by a unit fraction, W divided by 1/d is the same as W times D. So we can do 6 times 8 to get our answer. 6 divided by 1/8 is the same as 6 times 8. So it's gonna last for 48 days. It's important to be able to do those kinds of calculations so your pets don't run out of food, right? Then it becomes an emergency. Right, letter H. Jody and 7 friends, so Jody and 7 friends, are sharing 12 oranges equally. How many oranges does each person get? Give your answer as a mixed number. Okay, so Jody and 7 friends are sharing 12 oranges. This is one of those little tricky phrasings because if it's Jody and 7 friends that are sharing, do you know how many people are sharing? Jody and the 7 friends, so that means 8. So 8 people are sharing 12 oranges. So what are we starting with, the 8 or the 12? Yeah, they're sharing the 12 oranges. So that means I would draw out my 12 and have to divvy that up between the 8 people. So this means 12 divided by 8. That's what this means. So the 12 oranges are being split up between 8 people, and it wants to know how many each person will get. Give your answer as a mixed number. No wonder it's a mixed number because this time I'm starting out with a higher value that I'm dividing by. So I'm gonna get more than 1. Remember we saw the other day that if you have 12 divided by 8, any number divided by that, as a multiplication equation, I could look at this as 12 times what? 1/8. And if you have 12 times 1/8, that would mean that you would have 12/8, which makes sense because fractions are little division problems. So maybe you're just saying, well, 12 divided by 8 is just 12 divided by 8. It's true. And you get the same answer using that inverse of multiplication. So now we have a mixed number, or sorry, we have an improper fraction that we want to change to a mixed number. You could simplify it first if you want. I'll just simplify it after. So 8 goes into 12 one time. And I'm at 8, right? 8 times 1 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. So that's my numerator. And my denominator stays the same. And maybe that 4/8 is just screaming out at you. My eyes! Yes, I know. It's not 4/8, it's 1/2. So 1.5. So each person would get 1.5 oranges. Okay, now it's time to just apply it with some standard algorithm stuff down here. Use the patterns from the previous examples to divide. In every single one of these, this fits into the W divided by 1/d equals W times D format. All of these are dividing by a unit fraction. And you just saw that when you divide by a unit fraction, you can get the same result by taking your starting amount and multiplying it by your denominator. And this works when you're using unit fractions, right? And in my unit fraction, the numerator is always 1. So if I want to know what 10 divided by 1/3 is, I can do 10 times 3, which is 30. And again, this would work because I would be drawing out 10 shapes. I'm not going to do that now. But I would take each of those 10 shapes and cut them up into 3 pieces, and then I'm asking you for how many total pieces. So if each one was cut up into 3, and I had that 10 times, that would be 3 pieces times the 10. That's where this comes from. Okay, HI. Now let's go right underneath there. If you have 7 times 1/10, that means that each of the 7 whole amounts is cut up into 10 pieces. That would mean that I would have 7 times 10. So W divided by 1/d is the same as W times D. We would have 70 pieces total. Maybe you want to press pause right now and try the rest of those 4, and then press play to check your work, but don't forget to come back and check your work. Or if you don't feel ready, it's okay too, but if you're ready to pause me, go for it. All right, 6 divided by 1/6 means that each 6 is cut up into 6 pieces, and I want to know, well, how many is that? Well, I would have 6 times 6 because each whole is cut up into 6. So that would mean that 6 divided by 1/6 is 36. 9 divided by 1/5 means I would have 9 times 5, because each whole would be cut up into 5 pieces, and 5 pieces times the 9 whole would be 45. And 4 divided by 1/9 means that each whole is cut up into 9 pieces, so I would have those 9 pieces 4 times, which would give me 36. And finally, if you have 2 and you cut them up into fourths, that's the same as saying, okay, well, I have 4 pieces 2 times. So that would be 8 total pieces. And there you have it. You are done with your notes for today. Thanks for watching.